recording red? Okay. All right, everybody. We're back again with the continuation of the second day of our interview with Mirza Big. And we're going to go through his chapter 3 on assimilation. But before we get into that, Mirza Big was asking, what was the question you asked me? About the university question?
Yeah, is there a human thermodynamics?
Oh, he's asking about
some kind?
Institute of Human Thermodynamics. So, Institute of Human Thermodynamics is kind of a fluid organization of people connected through email, social media, conferences, meetings, but it's not established in any one building right now. So the goal is to get the subject of Physico-Chemical Sociology established at a university in America or maybe in England, for example, Oxford or Cambridge. And so the resistance to that is Florence Nightingale tried to get social physics started at Oxford. She raised about $100,000. John Q. Stewart got social physics started at Princeton in the 1940s, but it only lasted for 5 years. And he was funded with about $160,000 per year from the Rockefeller Foundation, but that washed out because it was so controversial. So now the goal here is we're working to raise, now the cost for a chair in America is $2.5 million. So one example of that is the company mailcubes.com. We're selling everybody in America right now is using smart technology for their home security systems, voice activated questions with your vocal interface. So we're smart interfacing the front porches in America with, so you get text message when you get your packages and when you get when your mail comes. So funds from that, once we get up to the $2.5 million level, is going to go towards the establishment of the first, the philanthropic aim of the whole thing is to found a chair of Physico-Chemical Sociology. And to do that, one of the problems is the core students have to come from the physical science and the engineering department. So the young students who are the top in their class have to be taught, part of their curriculum, the basics of physical-chemical thermodynamics, human chemical thermodynamics. So they and the students from the humanities have to interact with this group, and they have to circulate the knowledge from this group into the humanities students, and this gas has to be filtered back through the work of Wheeler Gibbs and back into chemical engineering, so we get an anchoring in the university system. So this is a visual of the anchor of the feedback mechanism for the establishment of a university department and chair that teaches physical-chemical humanities. So it was started with Nightingale Chair at Oxford, then the Princeton Social Physics Chair, and now we're trying to get it established in America. So Florence Nightingale says in 1891, I think the following needs to be going. We need to have a scheme from someone of high authority as to what should be the work and subjects in teaching social physics and their practical applications in the event of our being able to obtain a statistical professorship or readership at the University of Oxford. And this is 1891. So it's been over a century, and we're still trying to obtain a professorship or readership in social physics at any university in the world. So that's something we're working on right now. So I'm just going to show you a quick, show Mirza here a quick diagram of what this is going to look like. So, Chair of Physico-Chemical Sociology. This is what it's going to look like once it gets funded, either through my own efforts or in the future it's going to be founded by someone. So right now, the university departments are divided by, they have the natural sciences are in one department, chemistry and physics, and the humanities departments are in separate part of the university with mythology, economics, history, and sociology, and they're separated and there's no connection, whereas there used to be about 200 years ago. And so students, according to the kind of Humpty Dumpty students sitting on a fence and they're precariously, if they want to ask the bigger questions about why we're here, how we came to be, what is the purpose of movement with my body, there's no answer because universities are divided. So you see right here, Florence Nightingale in 1870, she was inspired by the social physics of Quetelet. And she proposed that chair established at Oxford, and she raised $200,000. She donated $100,000 from her own money to get the chair established, but she couldn't do it. And then in the 1940s, John Q. Stewart, he was a professor of physics at Princeton, and he got $160,000 US in funding from the Rockefeller Foundation. But when Warren Weaver, who was in charge of signing off the check for this funding, the annual funding, he started reading what they were doing. So I'll show you the example of that. He said that he believed that it was inapplicable, and the applicability of issue was the reason they cut funding. He said you cannot apply physics and chemistry to the measure of feelings, choice, scientifically speaking, that is chemically and physically. So this is what's called the Stewart-Weaver fallout. So we'll take a look at that here. Here's John Q. Stewart. He was attempting to establish social physics in Oxford, and he had a group of people for example, Bridgman was a famous thermodynamicist, and he had a sociologist in economics. But in order to get the funding for the department, this person, Warren Weaver right here, had to sign the checks. And so what John Q. Stewart was monism. For example, you and I believe that everything in the universe has one philosophical point of view, but he would believe in dualism. And so he got to the point where here, he said, I'm completely sympathetic with your approach, and he started offering, he gave him a grant of $15,000, equivalent to $150,000 in modern terms. And so Stewart started publishing papers. He talked about how there's isomorphism. For example, he used the term allegories, and he said this means there's isomorphism means reliable item-to-item correspondence between two or more fields, which are superficially may seem altogether dissimilar. The fields are exhibited as more or less identical in their patterns. So this was okay, but then he started publishing work on remarks on the current state of social physics. And he started using isomorphisms of thermal, electromagnetic, chemical energy, respectively, and comparing these, using these terms to explain human meaning, feeling, and authority, as well as mechanical work. So this got to the point where the funding was shut down by this paragraph. He shut the $150,000 funding off. So Weaver wrote to Stewart, and he said, I'm going to cancel funding for social physics at Princeton because to search for isomorphisms between social phenomenon and physical phenomenon is indeed an interesting idea. The real question, however, is whether or not it is a rewarding idea. So he goes on, it is interesting to suppose that there may be entities, social values, which play in social experience the same roles as played by different forms of physical energy. He says, but it is hard for me to sense how one can usefully assign quantitative measures to with any significantly wide range of values in the social field. When you link together such things as meaning, feeling, authority, and decision-making, choice, this sounds to me like a heterogeneous mixture. And so he ended up cutting funding because of that. So what we're doing right now, instead of having to go through and get approval from someone like Warren Weaver, we're going to have the funding established from sales and other situations. So once we get the funding, we'll get the. So right now we're doing the conferences. Conference next year, you'll be presenting it. Just to let everybody know, just to announce, Mirza here has just announced to me today that next year he's going to be presenting at the Two Cultures Thermodynamic Conference. So let's take a look at that real fast since the good news is going to be here. We're going to be he's going to present by a teleconference. So we're going to make a video and he's going to present during the conference. So we'll take a little. Let's just see. So keep everybody in the loop at home here.
So the publication of this whole video is your responsibility entirely.
Entirely. I wrote the whole thing. There's somebody who programs it for in Canada, the programmer, and but he does it for free for the benefit of education. So because it's educationally a tool for teaching students, is for free. He donates the time, but I do all the writing and the order of it. So next year, if you're interested in what Mirza and I are discussing, physical-chemical sociology or thermodynamics applied to the social sciences or the humanities, come to Boston or Massachusetts Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and we're going to be having a Two Cultures International Conference on Thermodynamics, where it'll be the social scientists will meet up with the natural scientists, and we will be discussing identifying the connecting dots of scientific revolutions in the natural and social sciences. And the theme of the culture is on the growingly divided two cultures rift in the world's education systems, as opinionated famously by Judson Herrick, University of Chicago, John Dewey in 1938, and Charles Snow. He's the person who originated the term two cultures. For those who don't know, he says that if you go into any intellectual group, a group of intellectual people, you can divide it into two kinds of people: those who know the second law of thermodynamics, and those who know Shakespeare. So he wants to, if you unite the two cultures, then you have. So just to show here, we're going to go to the conference page.
IASA, is that your organization also?
This is RAM.
International Association.
Yeah, this is RAM is the one who's he's kind of working with me, but he's got a few professors that he's connected to.
They're separate.
It's the same as collaboration, yeah. But International Association for the Integration of supposedly, he forgets the word, it's supposed to be natural science and engineering. The social integration of the social sciences and engineering. So this is newly formed our organization. But the conference is going to be June 22nd to the 24th next year at Worcester, Massachusetts. If anybody wants to come, or if you want to present, you can write out your abstract and send it to the conference page here. And so the international conference is a conference about the coevolution of sciences, identifying the connecting dots of scientific revolutions in the natural and social sciences. So if we go here to the So here, Ram Podol is the main. He's one of the main organizer for the conference right here. So he's one of the. These are. So Ram is the guy who's kind of getting this whole thing going. He's working it out of Colorado right now. go down here. So Jürgen Mimkes, he's the person I interviewed last year. He's coming to the conference. He's the German physicist who started the social physics department. There's Ram right here. You can email him if you want. Get in contact him. You just say this is Mirza Big, and he already knows who you are, and you two will be good friends. And Georgy Gladchev, he's the one who came to Moscow twice to visit me. We talked about his book. He wrote the thermodynamic theory of the evolution of living beings. Mm-hmm. And so, anyways, so here's this is me down here, and but if we go on this page here, this is interesting.
You write in the Institute of Thermodynamics there as well.
Yeah, that's it. Institute of Human Thermodynamics. It's a fluid institute, but it's based in Chicago. So it's based in. You come to Chicago, that's the main hub right now. But
is there a Professor Nagy still there?
Professor who?
Nagy, L-A-G-Y.
Nagy?
He is a social scientist.
I don't know.
Of the similar days as 1985. Your institute is not a degree awarding institute, is it?
No.
Not yet.
No, you can get, if you go to Korea right now, you can take a graduate course in social thermodynamics. University of Korea, North Korea, I think, South Korea. But they're probably not intelligent professors. Their theory, they're teaching, I can't even get in contact with them. There's a, here, why don't you plug in the, you have the screen where it's Mirza is going here? I can't find it on my phone, it doesn't work good. We want to show everybody that Mirza is coming to the conference. We're making the global announcement right now.
Yeah.
So we need to show because the mobile version doesn't work as good as the
real tight, huh?
yeah?
The real airtight.
Yeah.
उन्होंने खेलना शुरू कर दिया फिर कैसे हो सकता है कंप्यूटर पास में हो और तुम खेलो नहीं क्या बड़ी बात है यार
That's not the one. Two Cultures Conference.
Two cultures.
Go to the bottom, click here. This one.
This one?
There.
This?
Yeah, click this. And go to about. This one up here.
No.
Either call for abstracts or this one. Which one was it before? And then country representatives. And we scroll down here. And I come from Pakistan here. Mirza Big has just announced that he's going to be country representative at the 2020 Two Cultures Thermodynamics Conference. He's going to prevent by way of televideo. So, thank you, Mirza, we're very excited for you in America that you're going to be speaking to the world through teleconference. So this is good news, everybody. Yes, indeed. All right, so.
You want me to plug in the...
Yeah, we have to switch back now.
Now with a one-man army, What are you supposed to be doing?
You're one of my soldiers. You're the general. You're planning the attack. You're like the you're a strategy for the attack.
So back to business, huh?
Right, now we're going to try to get through more. Going to make progress up to infinity. All right, chapter 3.
Assimilation.
Chapter
Yes,
3, assimilation. Now we're ready to make some progress. We're starting to stopwatch, everybody. We're going to get some motion now. It's going to be good. All right, so let's see. Assimilation. Let's see here. Assimilation. Assimilation and sociology is the merger of diverse cultural elements, the fugacious persons, that is, those who like to escape their system, belonging to different societies, have to lose their identity, and having left their land. Their first worry is to get condensed and thereafter to try to integrate themselves into the local population. So, Mirza, from your own first-hand experience, what did you feel about when you were 15 years old and you were a fugacious teenager and you wanted to condense and integrate yourself into the new Pakistani local population? What were some of your first worries, it says here?
Tendency or fugacity of a given species of solution, assuming that the vapor would behave as an ideal gas. It cannot.
So what were some of your worries when you were 15 years old?
The
about
first worry is to
as a
get it
fugation?
condensed.
First worry is what?
First worry is about getting condensed into the
Okay.
system.
You wanted to
Settle down.
You wanted to get condensed.
Settle down.
You didn't want to be a vapor anymore.
Wait, Libb. Wait.
There should be no vapor. There should be no vapor state. No
Okay.
fugacious tendency. Now you have come in as a refugee. Don't consider yourself as a refugee if you want to get assimilated.
Oh, okay. I get it. Sounds
But
good.
this is very difficult because the solution, I mean the social milieu, is not going to accept you. You must have a certain trait. The only trait is remaining fugacious, low-level technology, property ownership, property owning. If you have lot of money,
Oh, okay.
but if you have no money, you can't settle here.
Oh, okay. So
you
you were
remain fugacious.
so you no longer are fugacious.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So next we have we're going to talk about
This is it.
Raoult's law, equation 3.1, and
You have an equation similar to this one.
well, you've got your population pressure over here per square mile versus percent fraction of group A. So at a 40% fraction of group A, we have low population pressure per square mile, high population pressure of group B or species B. So this could be an example of which two species, which two countries. What is species A here in social terms?
It's one person with one community with an identity.
For example,
The B has no identity yet.
what would be the example? The Irish,
Let's say
Germans?
an Afghan.
This is A is Afghan.
A is the Pakistani institution, but it is also a milieu.
Hmm?
It is also a mix.
Mix.
Mix of
Brew,
population.
Okay.
It's a heterogeneous society.
So Afghanistan is a mix of
Afghanistan
A.
is another society. It wants to get nucleated in Pakistan. Pakistan is made do that under certain circumstances, religion for example. But otherwise, there is there would be identity crisis. The identity crisis will persist if you don't lose your identity.
Mhm.
So
And
the-
you will be
so the
only, you will be assimilated
early
only.
migrants into the American society even, no matter from where they are, they actually get really tough time getting settled into the society. But later on, when their generations are going on, it's they lose their identity and they are settled.
Mhm.
You will remain attached at a periphery. If you don't lose your identity, you are segregated.
Mhm.
Segregated into a periphery, not assimilated.
Yeah, well, that happens a lot
As
in
you
America.
said, it's like an oil.
Yeah, that's it happens like that in America. People there's the Italian population, Polish population. There's the
They are all segregated.
all separate.
They are all
yeah.
segregated.
But that's
But,
Let me show you.
In America also, America and Pakistan in that respect are similar. Heterogeneous society. One society is not prepared to accept the other one. I say that in this one, the blacks and the browns. I have that in this chapter.
I'm going to try to find. It's either Ingo Muller or Jürgen Mimpes, that one of the two German thermodynamics. They did similar graphs like you did here with the phase diagrams. And not the partial pressures, but something similar.
यार आपने खाना खा लिया ना?
जी चाचा बिल्कुल
खाना ठीक से खाया?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल
चाय?
हाँ चाय भी पीऊँगा
बोल
यार मामा
थोड़ी देर
बना-
में ले लेंगे।
हाँ, थोड़ी देर में सकती है।
So you see Ingo Muller. Let me see if I can find the whole page here. Ingo Muller has.
The difficulty
Take a
in
look here.
publication,
Socio-thermodynamic evolution potentials.
difficulty with publication in these journals or anywhere is that they are not free.
Free? Yeah, you have to pay.
You have to pay.
Yeah. But I'm just going to show you one example of Ingo Muller did something similar to you. Use phase diagrams from chemical thermodynamics to talk about homogeneous mixing of miscible. So down here we have.
This is Muller.
Somewhere, he's got it in here somewhere.